Yesterday was a day, huh? Welcome, 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 everybody. I am the host with the platform most, Troy here. We're back at it again. If you guys have been kind of unaware with some things here, yesterday was the Switch 2's Direct, so we finally figured out what the Switch 2, like how, like, you know, what is like this kind of like what we're working at, like what kind of games, everything about it, the kind of the little gimmick and stuff, and overall. And I did make a video of like my overall thoughts and impressions of the Direct itself, which I still stand by that. I honestly do think the Direct was very, very, very solid. In fact, I think it was pretty great. It did exactly what it needed to do. It gave me a good idea what the Switch 2, how it's different than the Switch 1, what kind of games are going to be with this coming out on Switch 2, the first party titles. It started with a freaking Mario Kart and it ended with a new 3D Donkey Kong. Like we got a new FromSoft title that's exclusive to Nintendo. GameCube's coming to NSO. Like, it's just those things. Like, honestly, like in a context, the Direct is still great. That wasn't the issue, and what made yesterday so tiring and taxing, it was the aftermath, because I already was raising suspicion when they didn't announce the price during the Direct for the console, and I'm like, they gave us a release date of June 5th, but not a price point. I'm like, that is concerning. We got the price point like shortly after, and it was $450. A lot of people were predicting 400. I was in the camp it was going to be anywhere between 400 450, so it's definitely on the high end of my guesstimate, but the fact that I still hit that, I wasn't surprised. And honestly, I think for the what the console is actually doing, I'm actually understanding on that. Like, that's not the issue here. I know people have issue with the 450 price point. I think you're going to have issues regardless on that. The issue was that really started this was the fact that Mario Kart World is launching at $80. 80 USD. And I know it's more expensive throughout the world, given currency and stuff like that. That is a $20 jump from this current gen of Switch that we're in right now. The only game that has broke to the 70 threshold is Tears of the Kingdom, and that's a kind of understandable get. And like, that even got controversy when that became a thing, because like, it's just Breath of the Wild all over again. Obviously we know that's not the case, and I can get the justification behind that one a bit more, especially since it was such a unique title, and it was it literally is the only game on the Switch that can do that was at that price. Every other game was at 60. And the fact that we're got that $20 jump is really crazy. And it did kind of bring like, okay, is this kind of like a Tears of the Kingdom thing where it's like they're really only doing it with Mario Kart because they know they can get away with that price point? Or are they just doing that to, like, you know, really, really, you know, get, you know, just kind of like, fuck you, we can do that with Mario Kart? Because again, if they can do it with any series, it's gonna be Mario Kart, because it's their biggest selling console. It is a system seller. No matter how much tell you're like, oh, it's a kid's game. I'm like, Mario Kart's literally a AAA title. It is up there with a GTA. It is up there with like any big AAA. Like, it is a game that sells units. So that, on that end, I'm like, okay. And the game does look phenomenal. Like, the Mario Kart World looks absolutely phenomenal. So does Donkey Kong Bonsai. But this is actually at 70, which I was predicting Donkey Kong, like, you know, Switch 2 games to be at 70. That's I was expecting. But the fact that we went $10 more with Mario Kart World was concerning. And then I think my main issue is just the communication and just how, like, everything just fucking went disarray afterwards. So, because there was like rumors that it's only 80 digitally, but it's gonna be 90 physically, and I'm like, wait, what? This is like, and it's like, can we get sources? And it's like, no one was like giving me like reliable sources, even like you know, like articles and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so we're just running with this. Like, the 80 was confirmed quickly because it was on the Nintendo's website, and it was like 80 USD, like market price. So like, that was already concerned. I was like, okay, that sounds like it's physical and digital. But the fact that we went a good chunk of the day not really knowing that it was like that we were thinking that maybe 90 was actually the physical price point. It's just already like just shows how kind of a shitstorm this kind of rollout has been for the Switch 2. Overall, I don't think it's gonna hurt it as much as we kind of like think, but it is a concerning trend. That's why I'm like, well, I'm so hyped for this console. I am definitely a lot more reserved, and a lot of hot takes, a lot of, you know, think pieces has already been coming up about it here, and I mean, rightfully so. This is a somewhat like a very concerning trend, like the fact that now we are now hitting that $80 price sold. And I think why it's hitting hard is because, one, it's the marketing has been very the messaging has been weird, because Mario Kart World was the only one at 80, so it's like, okay, so it's probably just gonna be like a premium title kind of thing. Like, it's probably gonna be 70 across the board for most Switch 2 titles, and that probably is still the case. And then later on, yesterday, I think it was like 5 p.m. my time, Central Standard Time, when they broke that the Switch 2 editions of the games, particularly Tears of the Kingdom, Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, and Super Mario Party Jamboree, will be launching at $80 physically. And I'm like, oh, that hits hard. Like, that one hurts. And on one hand, I kind of somewhat could see why they could try to justify it, is what those free particular titles, because every other of those physical titles that are Switch 2 editions are 70, which, okay, fine, that makes sense, you know. It's basically, I'm viewing the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, like, physical titles as a luxury luxury item at this point. Like, because let's be real, most of these games, if you're interested in playing them, you already probably have them on your Switch, and you're probably just gonna get the upgrade with the upgrade pack. But with those free particular games, because they're really actually adding a lot of new content, particularly Kirby and Super Mario Party Jamboree. So I'm like, okay, that's probably how they're going to justify it, but still, it feels really nasty. And then the fact that we still don't know the price of the Nintendo Switch upgrade pack for these games, or like those particular titles, because they do have like DLC. Essentially, they're saying it could be like anywhere between 10 to 15 bucks. I hope that the cake, because man, if this is 20, it's gonna, oh, that one's really gonna hurt as well. It's just been like the whole messaging, this thing has just really been my biggest issue, because then you get a lot of people's hot takes on just like, oh, this is just inflation, or like, oh, this is part of the tariffs. Like, I still don't know if the tariffs are the. I know Japan, it's the system and games are actually a lot cheaper in the yen, but I do know the yen is down. But it's like only Japan is having that. The rest of the world, like, this is like a worldwide thing. Like Canada, I know it's like egregious. Like Europe, it's egregious. Like, you know, like this is not just America. Like. So I'm like, okay, I don't think this is as much of a terrorist thing as we think it is. I do think it might play a small factor, but it's maybe not as bad. And again, I'm not an economic expert, so I am not saying like this for sure. And like, I'm just kind of taking like kind of an educated guess of like what the information I have gathered from it. But just like, it's mostly inflation and, you know, a little bit of, and also be real, corporate greed and stuff like that here. But it's like, you know, inflation, it does make sense. A $60 game in 2017 will be $80 today. So I'm like, okay, that does make sense. Like, and again, I understand the inflation argument. It just definitely feels tone deaf in the economic state that we're in, where it's just so much uncertainty. And I think that's really my biggest issue, is just the fact that it's like, well, everything keeps on going up. Like, we already, like, groceries have already been going up. Like, everything's been going up, and what wages are still the same. Like, it's just that issue where it's like, okay, I'm more mad of just the broken system that we live in than this situation itself, even though I am still, like, not happy about it at all. Like, I'm still coming to terms that I'm potentially might be buying an $80 game in a few months, you know, like, potentially. Like, I'm gonna try my best. If I do get a Switch 2 around launch, I'm gonna try to get the Mario Kart 8 bundle, or the Mario Kart World bundle, because I mean, the fact that it's 500 bucks, you get the game with it, it's, you literally save $30 that way. Like, it's just one of those things, It's definitely really smart to get the bundle here, and especially knowing that the accessories are like, which we knew the accessories was going to be overpriced because that's was the thing with the Switch, but the Joy-Cons are $90, and again, there's a lot more tech in it, but man, that was a hard pill to swallow. The Pro Controller being 80 actually wasn't as big because the Pro Controller now is 70, and they're adding them up that I'm like, honestly, a $10 jump like makes sense. So, and it's around as par as like the current console controller, so I'm like, that makes sense. So I'm not bashing that one as much, but like even like, it's just like everything across the board. So it's just a hard pill to swallow regarding on it. But then like the hot takes, oh my god, like the inflation, which it is true. This is why I don't necessarily get mad about the inflation argument. More like I think people also misunderstand that the climate that games were in even a decade or two ago. Like I've been seeing a lot of the 90s, like back in the 90s, like the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era, like games are like NES games are like $100, like, and things and if that is true, I am not debating that is 100% true. I do agree on that. Like, yeah, like gaming was a very expensive thing. Gaming has always been expensive. Like that's the thing, gaming has always been expensive. But the difference was in that era compared to now is game rentals were a massive like business venture. Like Blockbuster and Home Hollywood Video here in the States, people mostly played games in that time with game rentals. That's why video game companies specifically made games so brutally hard at the start with some titles, because they knew about the rentals. They basically wanted you to buy the game because they're like, oh man, I need to get good. If I bought this game, I could play this game for, like don't have to worry about turning it in. Like it was just a different climate that doesn't exist now. I know GameFly exists, and that's like really like the only major one. And I have used it back in like the early 2010s, and I definitely had a good time with it, but it definitely had its downsides. And I'm saying like rentals even in the 90s was best. It definitely, it was like you hope to God that the Blockbuster had the game, but I feel like that's why I always have to like kind of put those conversations with a asterisk, because it's like they always kind of forget to mention that like video game rentals were a big thing back then that just doesn't exist now. And like the fact also, like when like the original PlayStation launched at $300 in 1994, minimum wage was like what, like $3.50, $3.75. It was around the $3 mark, like between $3 to $4 and stuff like that here. So that was a luxury item. Like, that was like the equivalent of right now where we're like minimum wage is still like, $7.25 since 2009, and everything has just skyrocketed. So it's one of those situations where more of the pricing of the games make me upset, because like I know it's like I'm mad at the company, but I also know I'm more mad at like it's just overall this broken system that we live in that really just really going to like my thing. Because like again, video games are an escape. These are hobbies that help us escape from the hell of the world, because again, we live in just unprecedented times. Like it is really tough to even like follow the news, because it's just like it destroys you because of just what going on in the world, and how as great as it is that we're so connected, we're also like it's so easy to just doom scroll, and also just shitty shit is just happening. Like I'm not even like sugarcoating, like shit is just it's really tough to get out of bed sometimes. So I know it's just it overall comes to like that's where more of my big issue comes in. But I think it's just the messaging of this has been such a shit show, because even the Switch 2 edition, like, because also are like, wait, like the performance like, well, the like regular Switch 1 games, like the compatible ones, will they get a performance boost? Like the communication was so mixed on that, and then we finally got confirmation that they do and they are free, but it was like way down the line. And then like even this was one of my predictions, that one of the key factors how they're going to sell you on Nintendo Switch 2 or Nintendo Switch Online is the Nintendo Switch 2 editions will come free as a free with the membership, which is actually true. I believe they confirmed it for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and if I understand, it sounds like it's just across the board from what I understand. I might be wrong on that, but at least I know for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it is on that end. And that's for the premium, which is the case already now with, like, you know, Mario Kart Deluxe's booster packs, or a couple other Nintendo DLC, and on top of that, you know, you get all the classic consoles, and now we're going to add GameCube to the mix. So, like, the fact that, like, that was, like, announced later on, like, that was a prediction, and I'm like, that's something I feel like you could have mentioned in the Direct. That's why I'm so, like, it's just the communication and just the mass hysteria that came out of it that really just made yesterday so exhausting with the Switch 2 reveal, which, again, I'm still excited for this console. I'm like, it looks great. I mean, look at this Donkey Kong game. This looks so phenomenal, and I'm like really excited to play it and stream it. And I'm a little bit more privileged to do so because, like, I'm in once I start, like, my new job, like, I'll be in a better financial state, and then on top of that, like, you know, I stream and stuff like that, so I have, like, I can justify some of these purchases, but yeah, like, I can understand the average, like most average Americans as well, you know, like, who also, like, you know, have families to feed and stuff like that. Like, it's just, like, little Timmy just wants this Switch 2, and it's just like, you know, I get it, and granted, it's like that conversation sadly has always been the case, because even $70 price points had already been a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. Like, that's why people have always been very selective of games. Like, it's the thing. It's like, it's not like this is a new thing. I just feel like the reason why it just really hits is it's Nintendo that's opening this Pandora's box. Nintendo is the one that is opening this Pandora box of $80 games. Normally, Nintendo just follows the trends when it comes to price. It's not them starting it. And I find it so funny that this might be their biggest legacy from the Switch 2, potentially, is they're the one who started at $80 titles. And I'm just like, wow, I would never thought of that, you know? I mean, you can never say never on top of that end. And again, as of right now, it is just Mario Kart Tour and just some Nintendo Switch 2 edition physical games. So, like, this is not going to be every title. Like, Donkey Kong's going to be at 70, but it just feels weird that Nintendo is the ones that opened this Pandora's box. And I think it's just the unfortunate timing of, like, the Switch, when the Switch 2 is coming out. Like, I do think that plays a big factor, but it's just like, damn, it just hits different because it's Nintendo that's actually opening this box. Not to say, like, oh, Nintendo's so much better than, like, Sony and Microsoft. No, like, there are definitely issues that Nintendo has, like, business practice wise, but, like, this is more like Microsoft or Sony's in order to kind of bite the bullet on this one. But I think just because since this is such, like, a mid-generation system, that I can see how it fell on Nintendo's shoulders. And it's also maybe the reason why we still don't know the release date of GTA 6. They're still saying 2025, but they're, like, holding that to their chest, because I, like, the fact that they were speaking just months ago that GTA 6 might be $100, $120 game, and how that got some backlash. Maybe that's why they might as well just hold it, because they're just like, they know it's probably going to be that. Because now I'm convinced that GTA 6 is $100, $120 at launch. Like, I am now convinced it is not launching at 70. It is going to be a premium title. And the thing is, I know it's not going to, people are going to bitch about it, like I am about Mario Kart World. But at the end of the day, it's not going to, unfortunately, hurt their bottom line, because it is going to sell. Because if Mario Kart and GTA, those are just games that just sell. They're the reason why they're the generation's biggest games, you know? Like, they were able to sell those games. Like, this, like, the Mario Kart 8, you know, the fact that Nintendo was able to sell Mario Kart 8 for over a decade, and, like, you know, Rockstar GTA 5 for over a decade, should just prove to show, like, yeah, like, I don't think the price, that's going to stop it from having a major launch here. I am more concerned if this is just going to be like the standard of, like, all the other all the other publishers. Like, this is where I'm more like, oh man, we're going to see EA, we're going to see Sony, we're going to see Microsoft jump to that trend. Because you just know, like, they're like, oh, Nintendo's doing it, Rockstar's doing it, why not we do it, you know? Like, that's where I'm more concerned, and I understand, like, again, the inflation thing, but it's a tough pill to swallow, man. And I am just like 2025 might be the year of the backlog, y'all. Like, it might be the year of the backlog. I'm just like, and it's like, it's not like I already was like, man, I was buying games like willy-nilly. Like, I was already pretty stingy if I'm buying like a game new. It was always games that I knew going in that I was like gonna play right away, and games that I was like really gonna invest into, and things of that nature. Like, I don't buy almost every game at launch. So I think maybe why it hurts with Nintendo is like, because Nintendo, I mostly buy all their games at launch. Because also another thing that like what sucks with Nintendo doing is than any other publisher or anything is Nintendo games do not go on sale. They do not go on sale. They hold their fucking value. Like, the only way to get a good sale on a Nintendo game is getting it secondhand physically from somewhere else, you know? Like, if you're talking going directly for first-party Nintendo, you know, just Nintendo themselves for their eShop, you'd be lucky if you can get a 30% discount on first-party titles. It is just so rare to go that low. So that's why I think it even hits harder that it's Nintendo that's doing it, because we know these games will stick. And that's why I also hear, like, because people are comparing this to the 3DS launch as well. Which is true. The 3DS was overpriced. It was the system that was overpriced, not the games. We are now in the case where the system is actually priced fine. It's the games that are overpriced. And it's just like, do you drop the price of the games then? And then when it's like only one of the games, and one of those games is literally going to be your marquee title that you know is going to sell, like, I just don't see it dropping unless it's like a special promotion. And even then, it's only going to drop at like maybe the regular 70, maybe as low as 60 for like some holiday thing. But like, again, those are like just special promotion. What that has always been a like thing here. So again, it was just a lot to take in yesterday. Just and even like the game cartridge, like that was like another thing, because like people were panicking because they're like only some Switch 2 games are just game keys essentially, which that's the case with the Switch right now. And it turned out to be such the case. Like, it's just games that are like digital only, like Fortnite and stuff like that, or games that they can't fully fit into the cartridge, or they weren't able to fully fit in the cartridge, so it's just like you get a download type stuff. Like, that is a thing with this generation. But the fact that we're already getting closer and closer to this all digital landscape, that the fact that that even got in and no one really justify it till, like, you know, well after like the shitstorm happened, it just shows us how much the floodgates really opened yesterday. And I'm extremely tired from it. Like, I'm even with all the BS, and I'm still really reeling in about the $80 Mario Kart. I'm still probably gonna pick up this console as close as I can at launch, you know? Like, I am generally impressed with the Switch 2. I think another reason why this also hits so hard, because now the Switch 2 is no longer the unique system. We have the Steam Deck here, which also has all your Steam game library and stuff, like, I do think the Switch 2 should be more compared to the Steam Deck than the PS5 and Xbox Series X, because that's really more as a competitor. And I mean, again, like the fact that the dock, like, is actually gonna be like 4K and like 60 FPS and stuff like that, I'm like, oh shit, like, that's actually kind of wild. So like the 450 price point on that makes sense, but you also got to keep in mind that, and you know, this, yeah, the Switch, you still got your backward compatibility games, but like the Steam Deck, you have all the third-party great support. Like, it's just, the Switch had a really interesting place to come in, and I thought they were going to do well because how that reveal was so great. But man, yeah, once we get to that pricing, it was just fun. I'm sorry if I'm just rambling at this point. It's just, yesterday was a day. I don't know if you guys could tell, I was tired. I'm absolutely exhausted from yesterday here. Like, even on the stream, like, we talked Switch 2. I could have been playing Yoshi Island because I was just like, I'm kind of done. Granted, I've been up since 7 that day, so, but I would love to know what y'all think. Like, do you think the floodgates were open? Like, what are your thoughts on an $80 Mario Kart? Like, what do you guys think about all this? Are you still excited for the Switch 2? I would love to hear hear y'all's thoughts. Drop them down in the comments below, and please make sure to sub to the channel. It does really mean a lot. Just trying to get this up to the ground here. And then if you like the stuff that you see here, I do stream here on YouTube and on Twitch as well. Same T_Roy Jenkins. We stream all sorts of platforming games and stuff like that here. So I would love to have you in the chat. So definitely come on through. But until next time, y'all, thank you for being here. I hope you have a great day. Love y'all. Peace.